Hi, I'm Doug from Firstech. In today's episode of my Firstech Academy, we're going to talk about drone. We're going to talk about the two different drones that we have available at this point, the X1LTE and the X1MAX. The X1LTE is what you're going to find packaged in the RF kits as well as our bundles. So that's this device right here. The X1MAX and the X1LTE look identical, other than there's an extra port on the X1MAX for future use. So externally they look the same. If you were to pick the two of them up, you're going to notice that the X1MAX is a little bit heavier. The reason being is inside this X1MAX is more hardware. Inside the X1MAX you're going to find a backup battery, so you have backup power for 3 to 4 hours if the device is unplugged. You're also going to find a Bluetooth chip for future use, and you're also going to find the ability to work as a hardwired device or a serial device, and then like I said, it has an extra port for future use with the other device. So with an X1MAX, if you're going to use this as a hardwired device, so a standalone, what you're going to use is one of the following options for harnesses. You're either going to use the OBD harness, which we provide or you can order as a separate part, or you're going to use a 10-pin black connector. This one happens to be from an ALCA. However, we also provide a fully pinned standard 10-pin connector to plug into the device. So these are required for a hardwired installation. The device has to be powered through the 10-pin black port. If you don't power this device through the black 10-pin port, it's going to assume that you're plugged into a brain and it's going to revert to serial mode, which means it's going to look for data-to-data communication, not a standalone application. So when this is done, you can just go ahead and plug in your OBD harness to the 10-pin connector on the drone. And while you're doing a typical installation, what you're going to do is you're going to power the drone up, and then you're going to wait 3 to 5 minutes typically after powering the drone until you see a solid red LED. You'll notice instantly as soon as you plug it in, you're going to see a solid red LED. After about 30 seconds, you're going to see this red LED will begin to flash twice and then pause, twice and then pause. It's searching for service at that point. Once you see that twice and then pause and searching for service, that's when you have to wait for that solid red LED. So once you see the solid red LED, then you can move on to the activation portal and move through the steps of activation on that portal. So with an X1MAX, you have a few inputs and outputs. So we have one PIC, which is a programmable input, which would be your pink wire. This is used for an input trigger on the device itself if you're in standalone mode. We also have 3 programmable outputs, the most important of which is the blue wire, which is POC3, which is default for starter kill, which is used in many standalone operations and applications where you would connect this to your relay to trigger the relay for your starter kill. The other wire that's very important on this hardwire harness is the green wire. The green wire is your ignition input. So this wire is looking for a positive ignition source in the vehicle to tell the device when the vehicle is on and when it is off. This device can read ignition over CAN, no pun intended. However, we do recommend highly that you do connect a hardwired ignition input to the device. So as an aside, included in the box is going to be this 2-pin harness. This is meant only for CAN bus communication for future use. So this is not adequate for a hardwired application. You have to order either the OBD2 harness, the standard wire harness that we make that's fully pinned, or you can use this harness, which is a leftover harness from an ALCA that fits perfectly in the plug on the drone. It's the 10-pin harness, and you'll notice the diagram that we have printed out here shows the difference between the standard harness and the ALCA harness with the color comparisons. You can also find this document in the files section on our Firstech Tech Feed page. So this is the X1LTE device again that comes packaged in our bundles and our RF kits, which is meant for data-to-data communication with the brain. So it's meant to be configured and used directly connected to a brain using the 4-pin gray cable that comes in the box. However, since how we're so fantastic at Firstech, we've made it so you can use this drone as a standalone as well. So you can take this device, you'll notice it also has a 10-pin black port, and use it as a standalone tracking device if you need to. The only thing with this drone versus the X1 Max is this does not have any functional outputs or inputs. So it's just for power, ground, ignition, for tracking purposes only. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions or need anything in regards to drone, please reach out to us on Facebook or give us a shout.